So now allow two young adults to explain to you what problem we are addressing.
People don't realize how uncomfortable it is to always have sweaty hands.
It's not something I can control. I don't want to sweat, I don't want sweaty hands. In the professional world, you only have one chance to make a first impression with your handshake, and you don't want that to be a sweaty one.
So hyperhidrosis is chronic excessive sweating that is localized to armpits, hands, feet, or face. 15 million Americans suffer from this problem, and 40% of them, that's still 6 million individuals, have this problem on their hands. And that's what we at Palm have decided to focus on as our initial beachhead opportunity. The problem is certainly not life-threatening, but hopefully those two testimonials have given you some sense of how this problem can really affect someone in their personal and professional lives. This is really a true unmet need we're talking about here. Most commonly prescribed options are typically ineffective, they can have a lot of side effects, or they can be downright painful and expensive. Imagine having to get 20 or 30 needle sticks on each hand and having to repeat that 3 to 6 months. Palm's technology is based on a known mechanism of action. It's the fact that low levels of electrical stimuli can disrupt sweat gland activity over time. We're pairing that with the advances that have happened in wearable electronics. That brings me to our product. It's a glove that acts like an electronic antiperspirant. Well, the best part about it is that a user wears it for just 20 to 30 minutes, just once weekly on an ongoing basis, to maintain dry hands for the entire week. And you can imagine how we can translate that to socks for feet sweat, patches for the armpits, etc. We want to make sure that hyperhidrosis sufferers do not need to feel like patients. And we want to make sure that they can treat themselves in the comfort of their own home. Practically, they'll buy a starter kit that contains our gloves, power pods, and the glove liners that are disposable, replaced every month, that will be sent to the patient every month or every quarter. We'll continue to refine our pricing strategy as we get closer to our launch, but these price points have been tested with over 150 patients. This is not science fiction, it really is based on science. First of all, there's literature that supports that low levels of electrical stimuli can deactivate sweat glands over time. In addition to that, proof of concept study with our earlier prototype showed that we can reduce sweating by 60%. 11 participants got just one hand treated. The other one was a control, and you can see a sweat imprint here. And you can see how that marked the differences between the treated and untreated hand. We know that with the advances we've made since this last prototype, we'll be able to get the fingertips completely dry too. But even with those proof of concept results, the participants were extremely excited with the results they were seeing. There's one person who told me this is the first dry handshake that I've been able to give in my entire life. Someone else saw benefits that they had not expected in their sports. Back to our technology, we have one issued patent at this time. We have additional IP pending. We're planning to go through a 510K pathway next year. That will allow us to start launching this as a controlled market release through dermatologist offices, and later we'll leverage online marketing channels to expand from there. We'll use a razor blade business model that will be attractive both to patients and to Palm. So after completing that early proof of concept study, we closed a seed round that allowed us to finalize product design. We're now looking for $2 million to be able to get us through FDA clearance and to get additional user data for marketing purposes. This is the team that has been driving things at Palm. I'm a former manager with McKinsey & Company. Started this company out of Stanford Biodesign. With me, I have Dan Francis, who's also a former biodesigner. He spent 10 years developing another hyperhidrosis technology as the VP of R&D of Miramar Labs. And we're supported by people who have tremendous experience, both in medical device technologies as in dermatology. Marlianne Paul Rodriguez was our clinical, or is a dermatologist. He was our lead on the clinical study. And then Pat Altavilla brings 30+ years of experience in dermatology and aesthetics marketing. Should also mention we're based at the Fogarty Institute of Innovation, which is a top-notch incubator in Mountain View, California. With 6 million people suffering from pulmonary hyperhidrosis in the US and 78% of them interested in a solution like ours, we estimate this to be a $1.2 billion annual market opportunity in the US alone. And of course, we can not just treat hands, but we can also treat other body parts, making the total market opportunity much bigger. Beyond that, we can become relevant to consumers in the longer run. Hyperhidrosis has really historically been a disregarded market, but is finally getting its much needed traction thanks to a number of launches and exits in the space. So we have an opportunity to really help millions of people, provide them with a solution that they don't have access to today. So I'm excited to share that with you. Thank you.